here, as you can see, where is the account alias, and you want to click on create account alias. And now let's choose a name to give our account, and let's just understand exactly what this is. So account alias is basically a nickname that you give your account, and as you can see, this is the number that we have for our account, right? And now if you give us the alias, is going to change to this number there and give you another name. It's basically this link. You can send it to someone else, for example, a team member that you have, or like the new coach that you have. If you use basketball analogy that we had, you'll be able to log into your account, okay? And then now let's give it the name as fall alias. Let's take off the, okay, fall alias. Okay, let's name it that, and then just create, and we have right here. So it is created. As you can see, this is the URL that you can copy and send it to whoever you want. So for them to log into this account, as you can see here, this is the URL that we need right here for alias sign in. So with this URL, you can send it to someone, a team member or someone new to have access to this account. All right, now that we are done with setting up the policy, let's go ahead and then have some explanation, understanding of what is IAM user. So basically, like I explained earlier, IAM in AWS, IAM is identify and access management. It helps you control who can have access to your cloud resources and what can they do, and once they are inside of your platform, your AWS account. Okay, so now when it comes to IAM user, an IAM user is an individual that can identify, for example, as a single person, or for example, application in your AWS account, and each user has, like, for example, a username, a credential like a password or access key, and also a permission that define what they can do. For example, let's use a basketball analogy again. So if you're an IAM user and you're going to be like a player or like a coach or like a staff member, on the basketball team, right? So they can each get like a badge that can let them into the stadium, but it may only work, for example, certain floor. They don't have access to, for example, like the one laundry room or like a equipment room or some stuff like that. But a coach, for example, may have allowed them to have access into different locker room, and then like the code that we set up, the two one, the dev one, and the environment and the production one. Okay, so that's basically what can explain what is IAM user. And when you move on into the IAM group, so an IAM group is a collection of IAM users who share all the same permission. For example, you have IAM user here, and then you have IAM group. So IAM group is basically a collection of like a lot of IAM users that all share the same permission. Instead of, say, giving a permission to each other, you can take all them together and give them like one single permission that allow them to do a lot of stuff. So this making like a managing, access easier and more consistent. For example, if you use basketball as an analogy again, think of IAM group like a role that you have in your team. For example, the admin group is like a coaching staff, like coaching members, right? And they can also do everything, run plays, and then, call out practices and stuff like that, manage plays, schedule and games, stuff like that. And then now the developers group is like assistant coaches, where they can work on practice drills and then other kind of stuff, but they cannot change anything during the live game. So the coach only has the access to change like players, and then ask players to get out and replace players, like sub players, and stop a game, call for timeout, stuff like that. So that's basically what's like different between IAM and then IAM group. Okay, so there is another way that you can see why both of them are very important. By combining users and group, you get find into like control. Example, create a user for each person that you have, put them in a right group based on their job. So based on the job that they have for you, you can kind of put them in the same group and then give them one-time access to all the resources that you have. Okay, and then also you can attach policy into those groups that you have. Okay, that's the reason why it's very important to understand the difference between IAM user and IAM group users. Okay, so now that we are done with that, let's go into the next step. All right, now let's go ahead and then create the user group that we need. And to do that, you come here where you say user group and click on it. And when you create a user group, you want to go ahead and click on create group. And then here we can give it the name. It's going to be fall dev group. Okay, it's going to be the name of it. And now we don't need to add here. This is optional. We don't have to touch that one yet, but we can kind of look for the policy that we created. Okay, and then let's see if we can find the policy that we created. There you go. So now that we have this policy, this is the policy that we want. That this policy, we're going to attach this policy to this file dev group. Okay, and then now let's see exactly what we have inside of this policy. As you can see, this is the policy that we discussed earlier. All right, so this is the JSON that we talked about earlier. So as you can see, it allows everyone that is part of the development team to read and then see all the description that we have, and they have access to everything, but we deny them the ability to create or delete tags. Okay, that's what we have here. And then now when we're done, you want to go ahead and then click on create user group, and as you can see, now we have our so our group is created. Okay, all right, now here what we want to do is we want to create users inside of the full dev group that I created. As you can see, we have no users here, and now to do that, you want to go ahead and click on users, and as you can see, this is all users that I created before, but we just need, don't worry about this one now, we need a new user. So we're gonna click on create user, and then now give it a name. So it's gonna be SC Reef user. Okay, and then now we want to make sure to check the provide users access to AWS management. If you don't give them this access right here, they will not able to have access to the console and then make any change there. Okay, so now, all right, now that we already give our user a name, so now we want to go ahead and then check this box right here, which is provide access to the AWS management console. Make sure that you want this user to have access to the console, and then now you want to go ahead and then click on I want to create an IAM user. Okay, so now you're gonna click here, and then now for the password, you don't have to worry. I mean, you can set a password if you want, but for this project, I'm going to jump over this step right here just because it's gonna make the project long. But if you want, you can go ahead and create a new password where you can give this user this password, and then they will able to access to this console with that password. Okay, so now we're just gonna jump over that for now, and then click on next. And then as you can see, when you come here, you have to set a permission. So the permission that we are going to set is like this permission right here. The new user that we create, we want to give him this permission, that all the permission that we set up on this dev environment that we already talked about. So that's what you want to give them access. But to do that, you have to check this box right here, and then now you want to click on next. And as you can see here, it gives you a little bit of detail, the review, make sure that you have everything set up. And then now you want to go ahead and click on create, and boom, as you can see, we have created one user, and then this is the password that they provide for us, which is the default password, and this is the URL that they can use to have access to this console, and then this is their name right here. Let me just go ahead and take a screenshot of this, make sure that I have it somewhere in case if I need it again. So I have that, and we have the password here, so I don't have to show the password for now. Okay, right here. So what we need to do here is we have two options before downloading. Let me explain here. So as you already created this user, we have two options. So this is, for example, let's say this user is like a part of your team, or for example, if you're using basketball until now, it's going to be, for example, a new assistant coach that come in. Now you want to give them this information, which is going to be the URL, their username, and the password that they have. You can either email it to them, sign in, and email sign-in instruction, or you can download the CSV file. Okay, so that's how they were able to get this information. But for our case today, we're going to use download, and we're just going to, this file is already downloaded, and then now as it's downloaded right now, so now we need to go through this file right here and then open it and get the information that we need to log into our AWS account with this user, as is going to be Reef dev user. Okay, so now that's what we're going to do. Okay, so now as you can see, this is the CSV file that we download. This is what we have, Reef dev user credential. So we have the username right here, we have the password, and I'm going to delete this account as soon as we're done, so I don't mind sharing it with you guys. But yeah, so we have the username, and then we have the password, and then this is the URL that we need. Okay, so now we need to take this URL right here and copy it and then open it into a new browser. Okay, so now let's do that. So now I'm copying this URL right here, so copy. Okay, now that I already copied, I have to go through another browser different than Google Chrome. So this is my Internet Explorer window. So now I'm gonna come here and then take this off and then paste the URL that I have and click on enter. And then now, as you can see, we have four alias right here. Okay, so now I'm going to use the new what's called again, the new username that they gave me, and then the password that they gave me. That's what I'm going to use to paste it here. Okay, as you can see, this is the username that they gave me, this is what I copy this right here. Click on, let's see, copy, and then we're going to paste it here as our username. Okay, paste it here, and let's make sure that what we set up is working perfect, and click on sign in. And now we don't need to save the password, and let's see, there you go, we have access into it. There you go. So as you can see here, we have access to it, and then now as you can see, we are logged in as brief dev user. Okay, so we have access to it. All right, now that you are here, you can see this access denied that you have here, which is fine, because the way we set up this user right here, it only has access to our EC2. Anything else, you don't have access to it. Okay, so for example, let's try to have access to our S3 bucket and see if it's gonna let us do anything into S3 bucket. Normally it should deny. We shouldn't have access to the S3 bucket. Let's see, S3 bucket. Okay, let's see if we can create something into S3 bucket. Let's see, access point. There you go. As you can see, they denied this access because we didn't set up any access, any policy that will allow us to have access to our S3 bucket. Okay, so now what we need to do is let's go to EC2, that's what we all need today here, and that's what all the policy that we have, that's what we did set up here. So now we should have access. There you go. Now as you can see, we are inside of our EC2 and we have full access to it. All right, so now that we are here, we have access to the EC2. Let's go ahead, click on instance here, and we should be able to see our two instances. Okay, so we have both of them here. So now, which is the dev one and then the prod. Let's click on prod, and then now let's go to action and let's click on manage instance state. And then now let's try to stop this instance right here, and let's click on change, and then let's click stop. Boom. As you can see, we have this failed stop this instance just because you are not authorized to perform this operation. The reason why we don't have access to this is the prod instance that we are using, not the dev one. We only have access to the dev instance. Okay, we can do anything we want into the dev instance, but when it comes to the prod instance, we don't have access to it. That's the reason why this one failed right here, which is our policy that we set up is working perfectly. Okay, so let me explain again. The reason this one is failed because we don't have access to the internet environment. We don't have access to it. We cannot do anything about it. The only access that we have is going to be inside of our development environment, dev environment. Okay, so now let's get out here. Let's go back to our instance right here. And when we are here, let's select the dev one. So let's uncheck the prod. Okay, so now let's try to stop instance state. Let's try to stop this instance right here. Okay, let's click on stop and see if it's gonna work. Let's see, stop and then stop. There you go, it works right here. As you can see, this one is stopped because we have access to it. We are allowed to stop this instance right here. Okay, so now it works successfully. So but anything we want to do into prod is not gonna work, but anything that we want to do in the dev environment, it should be working fine. Okay, now that we already test this access that we have, which is stopping this one, and try to stop the prod environment, which didn't work, and this one worked perfect. So there's another way we can test this policy, which is going to be something called IAM Policy Simulator. So instead of just stopping this one and try to stop the other one, let's go ahead and then use the other way, which is going to be, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to be IAM Policy Simulator. And to do that, we have to go back into the main account and use that test and see exactly what we're going to have. All right, as you can see here, we are back here. What you want to do, you want to go back to your dashboard. As you are in your dashboard, you want to go all the way down here where it says Policy Simulator. You click on that, and it's going to open a new Windows right here. And as you can see, we already have users the group that we created, and then this is the one that we need right here. And okay, now that we already select the group that we have, now you want to come here into the service and look for EC2. Okay, and then you're going to click on EC2 because we are trying to test the policy that we have that based on the EC2 that we already set up. Okay, now let's go ahead and see what action that we are allowed to do here. And first, let's try to see, one is going to be stop instance. So this is the first one that we are trying to see if we allowed to do it, if we will have access to it. And then the second one will be to delete instance. Okay, now the second one will be delete tags instead of delete instance. Okay, the second will be delete tags. Okay, which is right here. Those are the two that we are going to test and then see how it's going to be. Okay, now that we have them two selected, let's go ahead and then run our simulator. So run, you want to click on run simulator. As you can see, it denied because you remember when on the JSON file, we have set up that we're not allowed to stop instance or delete any tag inside of this dev environment. So as you can see, it works perfect. Those policies that we set up, it works perfect. Okay, and to understand why it's not working, you can go ahead and click on the Amazon here, and then it will show you exactly where did we set up these rules right here. As you can see, is right here, because we denied the opportunity to delete tags or to create tags, as you can see here. And then now if you go to the second one, and the first one just show you exactly the statement that we're not allowed to do that. All right, we learned something new here. In the future, if you are inside of your AWS console and then you're having denied access into something, you can come here into the policy simulator and you will be able to understand exactly why one policy something is being denied, and you'll be able to see the statement, and that statement will definitely give you the IAM policy that is stopping you from making or creating an instance or deleting something. Okay. All right, last thing here, as you can see here, we did not set up any access that not allow us to stop any instance here. Okay, but now the reason why we have deny here, we have to be specific. Okay, so development, we ask here if we are allowed to stop instance only in our development or other instances. Okay, so that's why I type here development, and then here I'm leave it as all, and then run simulator right here. As you can see, we have this one come out as allowed. Okay, so we are allowed to stop instances, and then we just needed to be more specific here. That's the reason why. Okay, so now let me just go ahead and take a screenshot of this right here and the project that we were working on today. All right, thank you guys for tuning in today with me with this AWS project, like security project that we were building today. And we did learn a lot of tools, and then I'm very excited into getting more hands-on on AWS console and then learning new services that we have. And definitely this project was very, very important when it comes to security, setting up policy and creating users. You can create more users, send them into your prod environment, and you can create access for them, create policy for them and stuff like that. And as you can see in this project, we were able to create one users, and then and based on that one user, we're able to explain everything we needed. And then now with that, you learn how to create user, how to create group users, how to create policy, how to set up policy and stuff like that. So it was definitely a good project today, and I can't wait to see you guys into the next project. Thank you for being here with me today.